There's the ceremony from Arlington Cemetery in Virginia today, where President Trump placed the wreath on the unknown soldier here on Memorial Day. Here's a little history of Memorial Day. Here we go.
It's the three-day weekend that officially kicks off the summer season. A time for hanging at the beach, barbecuing, even catching a few laps of the Indy 500. But Memorial Day is also the most solemn American holiday, a day to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice while defending their nation. The Civil War, America's bloodiest chapter. Over 600,000 soldiers killed in action. Almost every community in every state suffered the loss of young men. As the war came to an end, mourners in both northern and southern states began placing flags and flowers on the graves of fallen soldiers. The town of Waterloo, New York is officially credited with starting the holiday. On May 5, 1866, its citizens closed their shops and businesses so that everyone could decorate the graves of the men killed during the war. Then an old war general had an idea. John A. Logan was the leader of a Union Veteran Association. He spearheaded an effort to unite all the decoration services into one national holiday, designating May 30th as Decoration Day. On the first National Decoration Day, 1868, 5,000 war widows, orphans, and other mourners gathered at Arlington National Cemetery. They placed flowers and ribbons on the 20,000 graves of both Union and Confederate soldiers. Two future presidents and fellow Union veterans, Ulysses Grant and James A. Garfield, attended the ceremony. Throughout the 19th century, Decoration Day grew. Ceremonies were held in major Civil War battlefields like Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and Antietam Field in Maryland. By the end of the century, the holiday was renamed Memorial Day. but war wounds ran deep. Most southern states refused to commemorate a holiday they regarded as honoring Union soldiers, so each state commemorated their war dead with different Confederate decoration days. Several southern states continue the tradition to this day. World War I ushered in the age of modern warfare. America lost over 130,000 soldiers in the global conflict. This shared experience finally bonded America's North and South. When the war ended, May 30th became a day to honor all American soldiers who died in battle as far back as the Revolutionary War. America interred its first unknown soldier in Arlington National Cemetery on Armistice Day, 1921. Every Memorial Day, this soldier and other unknown soldiers are honored with a wreath-laying ceremony conducted by the President or Vice President. They are reminders of all those who never made it home. Memorial Day became a federal holiday in 1971, and Congress shifted it from May 30th to the fourth Monday in May, giving federal workers a 3-day weekend. All across America, veterans and civilians still gather in parades and vigils to remember the generations who gave their lives for their nation's freedom.
Live 5 and the Evil Hippie Network, Rumble, don't know about X yet, YouTube, all that good stuff, rocking and rolling through our very plains of the United States of America on this Memorial Day where we pay respects to the 1.5 million soldiers who have paid the ultimate sacrifice and laid down their lives for this country. Beginning in 1917, should say 1776, to today, we saw the opening ceremony of the traditional U.S. president placing the wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And I think a lot of people take it for granted because we haven't had a lot killed in our wars, fortunately. Probably since Vietnam was the last, where we had a severe amount of casualties going back to World War II. There's not many, there's getting less and less people from the Vietnam area, especially the World War II area, that remember that. But really, since the Vietnam War ended in the 70s, we've still lost soldiers, but not as many. So I think in the last 40 or so years, maybe we've taken a little more for granted or gotten immune to not doing that. I mean, the last batch of soldiers we had lost, and 4 of them from California, 3 from the Inland Empire, were at Abbey Gate, there at Afghanistan, in the Biden debacle. But we should never, you talk about 9/11, we should never forget that. And as tragic as 9/11 was, it pales into comparison again to the 1.5 million over almost 250 years have laid down their lives as in military service to the United States of America and its citizens. That's why I think it's important to come on days like this especially on the holidays. And remember, because you hear a lot of replays and this, and we've lost a lot of that. We've lost a lot of that continuity in our country. And I think that's why we have such a, it's Tom Del Baccaro's book, The Divided Era, he wrote about 15 years ago. I think that's contributed a lot to the animosity that we've had because we just don't have that we the people, the United States of America, the flag, and what it stands for. Far too many people don't hear taps as it was played yesterday, as it has been for decades to start the Indy 500. Today, at the ceremony for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. But a lot of this animosity, criticism, hey, I don't like this guy or that guy or this guy president, it shouldn't matter today. We should all be one nation. Here's more from 45th and now 47th President, Mr. Trump, at Arlington. Here's his opening remarks.
Members of the Cabinet, members of Congress, members of the United States Armed Forces, veterans, and many other distinguished guests, we gather today to honor the incredible service members who rest in glory in this cemetery and burial grounds around the world and in 1,000 lonely places known only to God. In every hour of peril, in every moment of crisis, American warriors have left behind the blessings of home and family to answer their nation's call. They've offered all that they had within them and given their last breaths to each and every one of us that we might live safe and breathe free. This morning we pay tribute to their immortal deeds. We share in the sorrow of their beloved families, and as one nation we give thanks for the ultimate gift they have so selflessly given to all of us. These warriors, and that's what they are, as great, great warriors, picked up their mantle of duty and service, knowing that to live for others meant always that they might die for others. They knew that. They asked nothing for it. They gave everything, and we owe them everything and much, much more.
Mr. Trump is exactly right on that. They gave everything. And as I've said many times, that's a debt we can never repay. Because they did. They gave it all. They didn't ask for anything in return. Other than we forge on and not let the greatest country in the history of the world slip into the clutches of the dictators, con artists, tyrants who would just love to take over the United States and all its military and economic power and might. Because if you took that and used it to suppress the people, used it for evil, you would see one of the greatest turnarounds in human history, and it would not be for the better. More from Mr. Trump.
Each of the service members who have made the supreme sacrifice for our nation, has also left an unfillable void and an unbreakable silence in the lives of all who love them. For the families of the fallen, you feel the absence of your heroes every day in the family. These are great families. These are wonderful families. In the familiar laugh no longer heard, the empty space at Sunday dinner, or the want of a hug or a pat on the back that will never come again. Every Gold Star family fights a battle long after the victory is won, and today we lift you up and we hold you high. Thank you, thank you, thank you for giving America the brightest light in your lives. It's what you've done. We will never, ever forget our fallen heroes, and we will never forget our debt to you.
That's one thing we should all keep in mind today and every day, but especially on this day, just as the stark reminder, maybe some of us need a kick in the pants, to, as Mr. Trump said, we owe them a debt we can never fully repay. But as I've said many times, we don't want to be the generation that let their sacrifice slip away.
This Memorial Day is especially significant as we commemorate 250 years since the first American patriots fell on the field of battle. 2.5 centuries ago at Lexington Green, Concord Bridge, Bunker Hill, brave Minutemen and humble farm boys became the first to give their lives for a nation that did not yet have a name. With their deaths, men like John Brown, 23, Samuel Hadley, 28, and Abner Hosner, 21, ignited the flame of liberty that now lights the inspires everybody and the entire world. Those young men could never have known what their sacrifice would mean to us, but we certainly know what we owe to them. Their valor gave us the freest, greatest, and most noble republic ever to exist on the face of the earth.
And that's 100% right. Their sacrifice gave us the ability to live in the greatest country in the history of the world. And if you don't like it, you know, there's lots of other land masses across this globe on Earth you can roll to if you think that's a better spot. And if you're going to come to the United States of America, learn our culture, pay respects, and defend the sacrifice that 1.5 million made before you to live in this great land. And don't try to change it into something it not or should ever be.
A republic that I am fixing after a long and hard 4 years. That was a hard 4 years we went through. Who would let that happen? People pouring through our borders unchecked. People doing things that are indescribable and not for today to discuss. But the republic that is now doing so very well, we're doing so very well right now, considering the circumstances, and will do record-setting better with time. We will do better than we've ever done as a nation, better than ever before, I promise you that.
We're going to keep you at your word, Donald J., and I have no doubt that he will deliver. He has so far. And that's it. We came very precariously close. In the last, close to 37 years of losing this great republic. If it wasn't for Trump in 16 and now 24, I think it would have been gone. I think they would have already turned it around. Thank our lucky stars that we're finally getting things back on track the way they should be.
In every generation since, at Trenton and Yorktown, at Vicksburg and Shiloh, and in faraway places with names like Chateau Terrari, Anzio, Iwo Jima, Quezon, Kandahar, really just a few chosen names, and these are names that have become so important on the altar of freedom. They plunged into the crucible of battle, stormed into the fires of hell, charged into the valley of death, and rose into the arms of angels. The sacrifice that they made was not merely for a single battle, a long ago victory, or a fleeting triumph, decades or centuries past. Their sacrifice was for today, tomorrow, and every morning thereafter. Every child that lives in peace, every home that is filled with joy and love, every day the Republic stands is only possible because of those who did what had to be done when duty called, and the cost was everything to them and to their families. Our debt to them is eternal, and it does not diminish with time. It only grows and grows and grows with each passing year.
It does. And it is difficult. It becomes increasingly more difficult because there's more forces that try to pull it. As we've seen, especially in the previous 4 years, that U.S.
Got 1 minute, Roy. 1 minute.
You got it. And even like I said, the last 38 years from George Poppy Bush. If it wasn't for Trump 1 and now 2.0, like I said, we'd probably be in a lot worse situation. Thank goodness we're turning it back around. So the 1.5 million soldiers who fought, bled, and died to give us this opportunity, that we won't let it slip away.
30 seconds.
And that's what today should be all about. That's what it is about. That's what everyone, especially in the United States, should be thinking about today.
Here we go. 10 seconds.
But the best hillbilly hoedown around.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Program producers are not
So it's Memorial Day 2025 as we come back on KMET. We played at the top of the hour when we came on, and you can check it out on Newswire on YouTube, Rumble. And, well, I don't know if X is on there. We'll see. The Evil Hippie Network. Memorial Day. I hope more people get back to thinking, doing, and remembering and acting on what the 1.5 million people who fought, bled, and died to give us privileged 350 million out of 8 billion people on Earth, the opportunity to live in the greatest country in the history of the world. It allows you to be the freest, most opportunity of anyone that's ever lived in the history of the world. I hope we don't. I see that, and why I played that was Taps at the Indy 500. It was good to see a sellout, a packed crowd of 350,000 like it used to be. Maybe the spirit's coming back. Even the Indy 500 went through some rough times of where they weren't selling the place out, which has been a Memorial Day tradition for over 100 years. The greatest spectacle in racing. But maybe with the respect Trump has brought back, the feeling that we can do it, we the people, we're going to start. Maybe this is the beginning of a renaissance next year. I think when we celebrate 250 years on July 4th next year, the founding of the United States of America. Again, I want to focus on the positive signs I see and the ultimate never forget the sacrifice to those whom we owe a debt we can never fully repay. More from Trump's speech at Arlington Cemetery today. Here we go.
The greatest monument to their courage is not carved in marble or cast in bronze. It's all around us, an American nation, 325 million strong, which will soon be greater than it has ever been before. It will be. And so today we uphold the memory of our heroes as people have done since ancient times by telling their stories and exalting their names.
And I want to say that. And again, I'm going to hold Mr. Trump to his word, and I have no doubt, based on past history, he will uphold it. We're going to build on the building blocks of the sacrifice of that 1.5 million. And we're going to provide a brighter future for those than we had. Despite people's attempts to flush it down the toilet, that just can't happen. No way, no how.
Senior Master Sergeant Elroy Harworth was a young, beautiful man from Earhart, Minnesota, when he enlisted in the Air Force and was sent to Vietnam. 59 years ago this very week, Elroy and his crewmates climbed into the dark skies over Da Nang on a classified mission known as Operation Carolina Moon. Their aim was to blow up a key enemy bridge, and while other crews had tried and failed, they were determined to try and get it done in face of extreme danger, and they knew how bad it was. As their C-130 closed in on its target and Elroy jockeyed his 5,000 pounds of explosives into position, the aircraft came under unbelievably intense fire. They'd never seen anything like it. Try as they might, they were hit as the plane swung low and they went down deep in enemy territory. Elroy was just 24 years old when he gave his life for America, leaving behind a beautiful young wife who was 7 months pregnant. That meant Elroy would never know the joy of meeting his son Troy or seeing him grow, and he would never have the pride to watch his son follow in his father's footsteps and serve 2 decades in the U.S. Army. Sergeant First Class Troy Harworth is with us today, joined by his wife Sonia and their son John, the grandson Elroy never got to hold. Thank you, Troy, and thank you, John, and above all, thank you, Elroy. Thank you very much. Please stand up. Thank you, wherever you may be. Thank you very much.
So, as Mr. Trump acknowledged the first of many on his speech today, again, think of those guys like that never got to see their sons or grandsons grow up or their future because they were willing to lay it on the line for us.
Symbol of the U.S.'s hard-fought freedom.
Having the opportunity to place an individual flag on an individual's grave is special. It keeps us connected.
For Captain Sean Conaway, it's a connection to the soldiers who came before him, those who fought to defend the Stars and Stripes.
No plot here can be bought. All of them must be earned.
Before dawn on a rainy Thursday morning, Captain Conaway and each of the members of the Old Guard stationed at Arlington National Cemetery placed a flag at more than 260,000 headstones ahead of Memorial Day. Each one was placed with military precision, intended to look uniform, or at least as uniform as they can. One flag for each soldier.
One that stands out for me is Captain John Tinsley. Sorry, get a little bit emotional thinking about it.
Sergeant Major John Kitzmiller says he served under U.S. Army Captain John Tinsley, was killed by a roadside bomb in Afghanistan in 2009. He's buried at Arlington.
I always aspired to be like him. It was somebody that you wanted to do right by him, not because you were afraid or anything, but just because he was the type of person you didn't want to let down.
Sergeant Major Kitzmiller says he thinks about the stories of the people who served.
Every year, I think about him.
Every year and every day, especially on a holiday meant to make sure nobody's forgotten.
It's comforting in a way to know that at some point, soldiers might be doing this for me.
Because on the surface, it's 50 stars and 13 stripes. Underneath, it's gratitude for lives spent in service.
You can't help but get a sense of, unbelievable emotion, when you see the flag.
In Washington, I'm Vinay Simlot.
So there's Arlington. They've done the same thing out here in Riverside at the Riverside National Cemetery, out there by the 215 in Van Buren, right next to March Field, if you want to go back a long ways. But like the story said, and the reason we should do what we are, so no more than you heard that. It wasn't, we lost people in Afghanistan and over there probably unnecessarily for a lot of years, even before the 13 at Abbey Gate, 3 from the Inland Empire. But we shall, hopefully, lessons learned. We will not repeat the mistakes of the past. And we will definitely get it in gear, hit 5th gear overdrive, making sure that those who fell before us in defense of this country, that their lives didn't fall in vain. Here's Pete Hegseth at the Memorial Day ceremony, our Secretary of Defense. Here we go.
Who's seen up close the courage and sacrifice we're here to honor today, and who never ever forgets that the gifts given here are in defense of our great nation. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Pete Hegseth.
Roxanne, President Trump, Vice President Vance, Chairman Kaine, Gold Star families. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today to remember our fallen warriors. We gather here to honor our very best, gone in their youth. To properly do so, we understand who they are and what they fought for. It is our simple duty to them. You know, throughout time, civilizations have honored the powerful, the well-connected, and the well-born. Emperors and kings have built magnificent shrines to their own royal greatness. Yet in America, with our great experiment in self-government, it is fitting that the most honored and closely guarded tomb in the land is that of an anonymous soldier.
And we should never forget that point. We don't celebrate the King and Queen of England or any of that. We don't have a monarchy, at least in our government, as we're supposed to. We don't exalt those who probably don't deserve it. Let's be nice about it. But we guard that tomb of the unknown soldier. And we should never, ever let that get out of our focus, memory, or purpose. Here's Ronald Reagan, some 40 or so years ago today. Here we go.
With us today, my fellow citizens. In America's cities and towns today, flags will be placed on graves and cemeteries. Public officials will speak of the sacrifice and the valor of those whose memory we honor. In 1863, when he dedicated a small cemetery in Pennsylvania marking a terrible collision between the armies of North and South, Abraham Lincoln noted the swift obscurity of such speeches. Well, we know now that Lincoln was wrong about that particular occasion. His remarks commemorating those who gave their last full measure of devotion were long remembered. But since that moment at Gettysburg, few other such addresses have become part of our national heritage. Not because of the inadequacy of the speakers, but because of the inadequacy of words. I have no illusions about what little I can add now to the silent testimony of those who gave their lives willingly for their country. Words are even more feeble on this Memorial Day, for the sight before us is that of a strong and good nation that stands in silence and remembers those who were loved and who, in return, loved their countrymen enough to die for them. Yet we must try to honor them, not for their sakes alone, but for our own. And if words cannot repay the debt we owe these men, surely with our actions, we must strive to keep faith with them and with a vision that led them to battle and a final sacrifice. Our first obligation to them and ourselves is plain enough. The United States and the freedom for which it stands, the freedom for which they died, must endure and prosper.
1,000%, it must endure and prosper. The principles, the people of the United States of America. There should be no greater focus on the face of the earth for us. We remember it on this day, but we should never forget it on the 364 days until Memorial Day of 2026. See if we can roll up to some of the local stories, because it's been the weekend and Lord knows there's 6,432 stories that pile up all across the board over the weekend, local and national some. Like we said, and this, I imagine this is because of the sellout crowd also at the Indy 500 this year. Record, let's see if we can, I don't know what it is about these. Well, the computers still go nuts. As we say. Record $20 million purse at the Indianapolis 500. And it did my heart good to see that it was a sellout. So we shall hopefully build on that. That we're going to keep the traditions not only of remembering those who were before us, but also those that we should keep in the future. LA County men accused of targeting casino winners over a dozen highway robberies. So highway robberies are back like the old Wild West in SoCal. It's another thing we need to bring back. And I hate to say it as a dying sport in Southern California, but that's Inland Motorcycle Speedway at the National Orange Show in San Bernardino, as you see, with a full crowd of people. That place is gone. And again, we need to bring back some of the traditions and fun of that. California Highway Patrol recognizing Memorial Day, good for them. The great Chuck Conder, council member from Riverside, doing the same, who is a military veteran. Of that, 3 injured in a Long Beach shoreline shooting. See if I can get it out. Then found dead in a trash bin in the back of a U-Haul in Lancaster. Something Trump, just do it. He's considering taking $3 billion of grant money away from anti-Semitic Harvard and giving it to trade schools all across the land. What a great investment that would be for the US of A, and so badly needed. Just get her done, El Presidente. Nasty looking crash in Rialto, 1 dead, 2 hospitalized. Of that, reckon Ricky Lewis won the salute to Indy at Parasauda Speedway last night. That good sprint car race. Hopefully there's video of some of the other stuff that happened that we'll get into maybe tomorrow or Wednesday. We had the cops show up there, out there in the pits. It was something else. Harupa Valley Station, Sheriff's Station, responded to a hit-and-run collision in the city of Eastvale. There's going to be video of the 4-wide salute that we had on that West Coast Thunder parade route, which, sad to say, does not go through Moreno Valley anymore, which is a crying shame. Of that, it's always a good tradition. Here in the Inland Empire, Officer Skirmish had to form a skirmish line to clear a large mob that vandalized a metro train. We got to get off this stupidity. Nobody wants to ride those stupid trains or the buses or anything else. Chino PD, recognizing the armed forces who made the ultimate sacrifice. Good for them, guys, and we appreciate your service. Hemet Sheriff's Station, same, celebrating Memorial Weekend. We did that one. Oh, let's see. Oh, that was I don't know how they didn't get upside down, but they AJ Bender and Sweeney got together on that, but they didn't. Though, actually, I think they both pushed off and got back in the race after that. But that could have been a big disaster, among some other things that happened. Like I say, we'll get to last or maybe tomorrow. Beaumont man accused of murder and the death of a San Jacinto 4-year-old. Boy, these stories are fabulous. Moval cops want to let you know how they do it, how they keep your loved ones safe while they sleep. There was a big nasty crash on the 215 by Columbus. Out there, multiple vehicles were flipped over. It's reported children were inside. Hopefully we'll get an update on that. The San Jacinto Sheriff's Station were called to a mobile gas station on 7th and State, where cops found a dude who appeared to be high as a kite and puking all over himself on that. We did that one. Let's see, Riverside County property owner fatally shoots a man during a possible break-in out by Lake Matthews. Hopefully we'll have more update on that tomorrow. BMW hits a Fontana outlet store. As you see it, crashed in there. So wild times on that. We don't know if there were drinking or drugs involved, but that hopefully we'll get to more of that. Uvalde school shooting, which was a tragedy, where things stand 3 years later. We do need to follow up on that story. 2 arrested for ransacking an ultra beauty store in San Bernardino County. As you see, one of the arrestees in that little caper. Going on next in the hit parade, 1 killed, 2 hospitalized, suspected DUI crash in San Bernardino County. Another reason why you should not drink and drive. Do you see and smell smoke? There was a fire out by Murrieta Hot Springs on that. Hemet Sheriff Station caught a bunch of, looks like youthful types, trespassing when they shouldn't be at Hemet High. Calls for service from Hemet Police Department, 6,000 calls, firearms recovered. Of that, a total of 252 arrests in Hemet in April. U.S. Border Patrol on the job. El Centro sector. This is why it is great that we have Trump in office and he hired Tom Homan, Kristi Noem to run Homeland Security, be the border czar, because look at all the drugs and stuff that are being recovered. And of course, we're told, oh, they don't do this. Breaking news, Ed Martin, who was the D.C. U.S. Attorney, has come forward. He has undercover whistleblowers coming forward. DOJ Pardon Chief Ed Martin is digging into Biden's last-minute auto pen pardons. A whistleblower says they tied in a circle, ran with the robot pen. Their names: Ron Klain, Anita Dunn, Bob Bauer, Steve Ricchetti, and Jill Biden. Well, all but to Jill. Very, very, very close ties to Barack Obama. Oversight sleuths found the same machine signature on Fauci and Milley pardons. U.S. House Chair Comey says it's the biggest scandal in U.S. history. Trump brands the scheme as treason at its highest levels. There's a picture from the 1800s of the Mentone Railroad line. That's even before cars were rocking and rolling, so they did have that. Nice ride. El Centro sector pulled this guy over. I guess it was actually classified as a bicycle, so they just wanted to know what was going on and release the guy. And again, just so you never forget why we have a 3-day weekend. The U.S. Treasury to phase out the penny by 2026, which is good because it's costing us almost 4 cents to build a penny. It's costing us almost 15 cents to build a nickel. It's about time we round, with inflation, it's about time we round up to the nearest dollar. I mean, I think you got to get to a quarter before we're actually, it's actually worth more than actually it cost to mint the coin. Lake Elsinore motocross is coming back, we question, or that's what's been said in a press release. So hopefully that does, after that tragic accident out there where a 9-year-old girl lost her life. The trans woman movement is actually anti-woman, says Aaron Rodgers, who I believe is some sort of famous football player that I've never heard of. Georgia National has been extradited to the U.S. accused of inspiring multiple senseless killings around the world. That's why we have what we have, and thank goodness Trump's in charge. That'll do it for today on this Memorial Day. Don't forget, we usually say at this time, mandatory we're back here in 23 hours live to hear the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
The proceeding was a paid program.
All right, Roy, have a good day. I will talk to you tomorrow.
You got it.